host, Jewel Faguni, and I'm with the iconic, prolific, groundbreaking, game-changing Keisha Howard! Keisha Howard is the founder and CEO of Sugar Gamers, which is the longest running gaming and tech organization that's been focused on building inclusion. And there are so many things. She's a 2-time TED speaker, multi-award winning, worked with biggest game companies like Xbox, Logitech, NBA, and more to really figure out how do we build inclusive spaces in gaming. She was the OG, okay? So I'm gonna pass the mic to Keisha to say more.
Oh my goodness. You've already said so much. This has been, this is my 15th year of doing Sugar Gamers. And I just can't believe that, you know, my dedication and just building this community has led to all this time, right? Like, it's been such an adventure. It's been such a wild ride.
Wow. We are truly honored to have this discussion with you. Give it up for Keisha again, okay? Yes. And so before we talk about the power of gaming, let's first dive into a very special segment. Okay, drum roll, please. We got the Goblet of Smile.
Oh my goodness.
So in this segment, you pick a question, any question, and the goal is for it to bring a smile to your face and a smile to our audience. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Pick a question. Try to shake it up. Okay.
Let's see what we got here. If you could make an office rule that everyone had to follow for a day, what would it be? Everyone would have to play with each other. Everyone would have to play a game with one another just to like get to know each other, have fun, break the ice. I think that as adults, we want to, you know, impress people with our work and our ability to produce. And we forget that we need to play. We need to like have that energy of like, you know, we can do something that's not so high stakes. We can do something that's going to connect us all. So I would definitely have an office rule that everyone would have to come with a game to play with everyone.
I like that. Yeah. I really like that. Imagine. Yeah. Because that's honestly, I like that angle more. Because I was like, I want everyone to bring a smile to everyone's face. So like whether that's a compliment, whether it's giving them like cookies or whatever they know genuinely would make them smile, I would do that. And I feel like that coincides with the playing games.
It does. Play is supposed to like give us that, you know, that boost of positive energy because it's like, it's how we connect with one another. It's like a fundamental human thing. And like, as we become adults, we just don't take it seriously anymore. We're too adult to play.
Exactly. It's the world society is like, you can't be focusing on this when it's like, no, it's the foundation of what we do.
Exactly.
Period.
Yeah.
Keisha! So y'all, this is like a very full circle moment because like when I think about you, when I think about Sugar Gamers, like y'all always made me feel seen as a goofy, positive Black girl in the industry. Like Sugar Gamers is always that space, and always talking to Keisha, you always made me feel like, yo, I belong in this industry. And I think about like even when we first met like a while back when I was working like on like inclusive gaming stuff, and then think about when we fast forward to now like a year ago or so, like realize you live 10 minutes away from me. Like it's been amazing to grow with you, and it's also been amazing to see the impact you've had, especially during the legacy event you had. So Keisha had an amazing legacy event during the Gaming Awards. She surprised me with an honor, y'all. But before we get into that, I would love to get into like, how was that for you? Because I feel like that's when a lot of people came together, because it's been over 10 years of Sugar Gamers.
I mean, well, first of all, thanks for even, you know, saying that. Like, my whole goal with Sugar Gamers is to build community. And it's not so much that I want to build a safe space, but I want to build a space where people can feel like they can be themselves and grow. Yeah. Right? It's not that I want to just hold you tight and we don't learn anything. Exactly. We don't have any friction or anything like that. But a space for, you know, introspection as well as collaboration. Yes. As well as, you know, just, you know, being able to be in gaming in a way that feels more authentic. Because like the things that we see online, they're always so impressive and they're always so polished and pristine, and everybody seems like they're on top of the world. Everyone seems like, you know, they're so successful.
It's the highlight reel.
And yeah, and like when I first started Sugar Gamers in 2009, influencer marketing wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
You know, like this whole social media, like how we scramble to make sure that our voices are amplified in this digital space. That's not what we had to really do in 2009. In 2009, the conversation about even being a woman in gaming was kind of new. So it's been an interesting journey to like have kept the spirit of inclusivity in what we do, because at the end of the day, like, yes, I'm goofy. Like, I didn't come into this industry being like polished and perfect. I came into this industry being introverted, goofy, weird, liking strange things, and just really being able to connect with other people who also liked games, right? So with the Legacy event, after 15 years of going to, you know, the E3s and the Evos and the combo breakers and, you know, all these different gaming events, like I've seen the metamorphosis. I've seen the transition to the nerdy kids and the gamer kids becoming the cool kids. And
how was that like to see that? Because I know it's like, it's cool to be a nerd now, but it wasn't always cool.
No, it was not. It was not. And I was at that age, like I, you know, started in 2009. First of all, Sugar Gamers was not my first career because I had not seen women at all of any color really have any sort of positions in the gaming industry. Like it didn't even occur to me that I could have a career in gaming. So my first career was in luxury real estate. And
how do you balance the two?
Well, you know, like, again, like, so full disclosure, I'm 40.
Period.
So,
glowing.
So, you know, I'm a little older, and I started gaming when the Game Boy came out. Like the Game Boy that was not backlit with the green screen. And I would look over my older brother's shoulder as he played Tetris, and that was my version of Twitch.
Oh my goodness. You know? I love how you say that.
Yeah, so, you know, like really having brothers was my Twitch when I was younger.
Wow.
It was not, you know, going on my phone or going on the internet.
Watching the stream.
Like,
you watched it in real time.
I watched real human beings play, and I had to wait for my turn.
Yes.
But I grew up at a time where gaming was just starting to hit consoles. We had just transitioned from like super arcade days to like real consoles, and everybody was getting a like Nintendos and Segas and stuff like that. And my older brother, you know, he was always resourceful enough to get the latest, greatest system. So from Game Boy to Virtual Boy to Sega CD to Nintendo 64 to Dreamcast to PlayStation to Xbox.
I know PlayStation, Xbox.
You know, understand? So like I got to like experience that. And being able to be there in real time and just see how the industry has changed, how the way we play video games has changed, has been magical. There's some things that I absolutely miss that I think that, you know, were like sort of core identity moments for me in gaming back in like the 90s and early 2000s.
What
are
are
very
those
different
things?
From today. What you say?
What are those things that you miss from like the core time?
I miss couch co-ops. So like when you played games with people, you played them in human form, right?
Yeah.
There's something to me that's a little bit, you know, like detached when you're playing online. Like it's obviously very convenient and magical. Like, oh my God, we can play games from somebody that's, you know, across the world, right? You can play games with your friends that are in different states, and how beautiful is that to be able to connect in that digital way. But it does not replace this. It doesn't replace like being literally in the same room and, you know, smiling and trash talking and doing all the things. Growing up with games, and also, like, I don't know if you remember, you're a little bit younger than me.
Well,
but
I'm young.
games used to come completed. There was no live ops.
There wasn't.
Games didn't last forever.
Spyro, SpongeBob, Scooby-Doo. I mean, I was PlayStation 2. And these were movies I already watched. So, like, to play them all through, like, yeah, it wasn't like new updates coming through. It's like you either beat the game or you didn't, you know?
Yeah, games had this whole idea of replayability.
Yes.
That's what made a good game. Like, that people want to go back into that world, play it again for a different experience.
Yeah.
In that, the way that you connected with people wasn't necessarily, if you weren't like, in person, you would have a conversation about it. Like, hey, did you beat that part in Final Fantasy VII? What did you think about,
Exactly.
So Sephiroth, when he came out, wasn't that cool? And you had conversations that were, describing your individual experiences with gameplay. Like now, again, like it's all out there. Everyone at the same time is talking about every single game that comes out. And it's like 10 games every week that we all need to be playing.
And it's like, who's got the time?
Yeah, who's got the time? And I think that's one of the things that I feel has been lost a bit is we as adults don't have that much free time to freely play games and then have this career in gaming. Yeah. And I think that people get it conflated. Like having a career in gaming means that you're just got all this free time to play games.
You almost have less time. I remember how people were like, especially when I was working with Minecraft, they're like, oh, do you play games all the time? And I'm like, I'm working on them all the time, though. So, I mean, I wish maybe on a weekend, but then I'm also resting. So, like,
So, I just try to remember those like human components, right? Like we have 24 hours in a day.
Look.
And one part about games that I try to like just hold the sacredness of almost is this idea that we're playing together. Yeah. Like play means something. And, it doesn't mean that we're working. It doesn't mean that we're marketing or selling something. When you play, you're not thinking about that. You're just having a good time.
Just having a good time.
You're simulating an experience that is going to bring you some sort of joy. It's going to improve some of your skills. It's going to allow you that competitive spirit. It's just playful. And somewhere along the line, even though we still have that in games, it's not as focused, right? So it's like we get a game, the first thing we want to do is go on Twitch or stream and show everybody.
Versus like just get immersed into the experience. Don't focus on like showing it off.
Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold.
It's okay.
But so that's been that community element, that human element, that playful element is what has kept me in Sugar Gamers and throughout all the transitions and so on and so forth. So.
Yes. So when you think about like the importance of us having fun when we're playing games, it also takes me back to like the events you've held in Chicago to really bring us together. Tell me more about like the importance of building this gaming community within Chicago.
All right. So, interestingly enough, so firstly, I kind of started Sugar Gamers by accident.
Interesting. Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, I didn't intend on being an entrepreneur. I didn't intend on being like, all right, I'm going to have my own business.
Yeah.
Like, one of the life lessons that I learned as an adult, a young adult, working in real estate in 2008 was that no matter how hard you work, no matter how smart you are, all that can be taken away from you, and it's not anyone's fault. It's just how life works sometimes. Yeah. And that was my career. Like I had like, really banked on, I'm gonna be a real estate mogul. Obviously, I was working for skyscrapers. Like my claim to fame is I got to work with the developers that were working on the Chicago Spire, and that was going to be the tallest building in North America. So look it up. It's a beautiful building by one of my favorite architects, Calatrava. It was just such a magical experience just for the recession of 2008. Which brings us to now, which is like almost a full circle moment. Literally. But in that time where, those choices were taken away, I had to be creative. And I was just like, well, what am I going to do? And, I had answered a Craigslist ad for a game show called Ultimate Gamer that was being filmed, and it was shown on Sci-Fi Channel. And I went, and I was really bad at games, but I was one of the only Black women to have even tried out for the show.
Wow.
It wasn't even, a racism thing or anything. It's just that
you were just the only one that went for it.
Right. And like, you got to remember, this is 2008.
That's a whole different time.
Yeah, 2008.
Yeah.
It's like, of course, if it was like right now, we'd all be open.
Exactly. It's like, yo, we'd be hitting each other up like, you going for this? You going for this? We go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in 2008, it was very lonely out here. And so I went, and it was an interesting experience, which, I won't talk to you about right now.
Yeah, okay.
But I came back to Chicago angry. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to, see if there are women in Chicago that we can get together and we can have our own gaming group.
Yeah.
And I put my own ad in Craigslist looking for women.
This reminds me of something. I'm trying to remember the team member I met. She was one of your OG team members.
Rebecca?
Yes, it was Rebecca. And Rebecca told me like she saw your ad and that's how she joined your team at the Legacy event. But yeah, pass it back.
Yes. And all these women answered.
Yes.
They answered this Craigslist ad, and I had so many emails, and they were just like, man, this group, this organization sounds so much fun, but I'm not good at games. Can I still come? Like, oh, I only play like Sonic or I only play puzzle games.
Wow.
Is this something that I could be a part of? Right. And like all the other gaming groups at the time, because I kind of had been inspired by groups like Frag Dolls and PMS Clan, right?
Yeah.
So they had existed, and I was just like, man, but they were, in California or some other state.
They weren't here.
And they were PC gamers. And like, I didn't have a PC. Like I didn't really even have an internet connection like that, like to like play games.
Yeah.
Right. And but I still like the idea of a group of women coming together, camaraderie, and being able to be competitive in the Midwest in Chicago, right?
Like unheard of.
And so all these girls answered, but they weren't competitive. They just wanted to like be a part of the community. And so then I started having events, and what happened next was so magical. All these women would get together at this event, and I would have the game set up. But what happened was they would just be so happy to meet one another and just bond over a shared experience. Exactly. That's how I would be. I was like,
that's just amazing. The connections. Like, I see you, you see me, we exist. Wow.
Like seeing people make friends with one another in real time. Some people still are like lifelong friends. And that is what we did for a number of years. We would have these events, people would come, and it wasn't, again, 2009, 2010, these women didn't come to these events like, I'm a streamer or anything like that. These would be lawyers, moms, strippers,
period.
Like, just any kind of, person that actually enjoyed games. And you would see that we're all gamers.
Exactly.
It wasn't
Thank you. Say it again. Say it again.
We're all gamers.
Yes.
Like people be like, I'll play games on my phone. Can I come? And I'm just like, absolutely. There was no like, oh, you're not a gamer if you're not playing Call of Duty. You're not a gamer if you're not good at Street Fighter. It's like we are all playing, and we all need community, and we all need like people to connect with in that way.
Yeah.
Because it's, again, low stakes. It's
exactly.
like, oh man, you like Mario Kart? I like Mario Kart. Let's go.
Let's just play.
And it's not like a high stakes organization, and that's how we grew. And then over time, all the girls that had like started to become really comfortable, they'd be like, well, can I bring my boyfriend? And I'm just like, well, this is supposed to be an all girl group, but I started to feel this cognitive dissonance, because I'm like, one of the things that was strange about having this all-girl group is that I started to feel like I was enacting the same issues that I'm trying to get away from, which is being overly exclusionary. Yeah. Right? And
it's a balance.
Yeah, it's a balance, right? So then dudes start being around, And I'm just like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen with this. Like, I didn't make guys officially part of Sugar Gamers until 2011, until we made Kyle Barboni our first male Sugar Gamer. He's all-American looking dude, blonde, but the sweetest dude. I met him in a coffee shop, and I was just like, you look like you could be Link off of off a Legend of Zelda.
Oh my gosh.
And he just smiled so cute. He was like, for real? You think so? And I was just like, absolutely. And so then he was like, you play games? And I was like, yeah. And we bonded over this moment, and he came and he hung out, and everybody loved him. Aww. And he became our first male member.
Wow.
And then our second male member, which is Chris, he's a motion capture artist for like Mortal Kombat, Injustice. He did stuff for Harry Potter. Sweetest guy. Sweetest guy. But like, and then after that, we started like, you know, having people from the LGBT community, and they're just like, hey, you know, we have these same overlapping problems being excluded from certain types of communities. And I'm just like, well, you know, as long as you understand the mission that we're all, you know, supposed to be like comfortable, like ain't no room for drama.
Look,
zero drama policy.
Look.
Like this is not, you know, a community decision. This is my choice. So like if you got drama, you can't be, you know, around like that.
Look.
So, but you know, we've had our ups and downs, but we learned along the way how to like collaborate, be together, learn together. And then like our events just started becoming, you know, bigger, bolder, more experimental. So until like the events that you started coming to. So like you can see like it's kind of like got a homey vibe.
It does. It's homey. Everyone is having good times. Everyone has good vibes. There's so many games. And then also just like the talks y'all have. And I think about like, that's where I met, shout out to Fox. Met Fox through your event too. And it was just, it's cool. And it's people from so many backgrounds. It's not everyone that's working in the gaming industry. Same thing, whether they're working in legal or they're teachers or they're independent artists or like, it's just a bunch of different. I even saw my friend's videographer at one of your events, Jessica.
Yes.
Shout out to Jessica.
She was one of the first too.
Yes.
Like, and again, like our organization is for gamers, not necessarily for gaming professionals.
That part.
Right? Like, we all want to decompress. We all want to play. We all want a place where it's just like, did you play Cyberpunk? You know what I'm saying? Did you play
together?
You know, you want to play Little Big Planet real quick? You know, we're not all about the latest and greatest, but we're about enriching each other. It's like, you cool as a human? Like, you want to play something, you know, cool off? Because like before, we got to this point where, you know, everything's about influencer marketing, selling something, getting that new headset, getting 1 million followers, getting 1 million views. It was about like, man, I just got off work and I just want to hang out with people that I enjoy. Oh man, you know, like, man, it would be so nice just to have like fun. I don't got that game right now, but if I go to this event, I can try out Street Fighter.
Exactly.
You know, just that low stakes. We're playing, we're decompressing. We can talk about it as consumers of the product, but not as like consumers and marketers of the product.
Exactly.
Right? So I really get to see how people play still instead of like we're all like trying to work to make money, which might be, you know, a strange thing. Our organization definitely attracts a lot more introverts. Like we're not all trying to be like 1 million. I don't necessarily like people sometimes were like, you're not a real gamer. And I'm like, why do you say that?
Which
like,
is something, yes.
You don't stream. You don't play online. You don't,
you know. Tired perspective. Like this is again, why I appreciate you and Sugar Gamers so much. And it takes me back to like one of your first TED Talks where you're like, oh, like I may not be the best at playing this game. And you were just saying that's the same thing with women saying like, hey, we're not the best, or guys or anyone. And it's like, it's not about that. It's just playing. It's just having fun. You don't have to be a big streamer. You don't have to hit the highest score. I cannot tell you how many people have tried to tell me, oh, you're not the gaming industry. How many plays do you get? Do you even play now? I'm like, Anyways, let me not play. But it's like, that's what's refreshing about you, what's refreshing about sugar gamers. And that's where I would love to dive into like longevity. So I think because it like you all have that foundational impact, the foundational impact with schools, with partners, with events, your team, like kind of tell me like what do you think has been the key in the longevity of sugar gamers?
Really, I think that it's a lot of how I was influenced by my grandmother. So, you know, I was raised in a somewhat unorthodox way. And, you know, a lot of people talk about boomers.
Yeah.
But I was raised by somebody that was born in 1940.
Oh, my goodness.
So there's like just some fundamentals that she taught me about being in the world and about like how you respect people. So, you know, a lot of the focus that, you know, I learned came from how I saw her be in community. Yeah. How I saw her like serve and be of support. You know, people would come over to our house and my grandmother would like talk them through different problems. Or either she would like, you know, I would see her play cards. We would always have food. There was always like this very welcoming energy and environment that she had, and it was also playful. Like she would like always de-escalate a situation by like, you know, being like playfully like messing with somebody.
Yeah, that's like, you though. Like, no, really, that's you. Like, I see where you get it from, because that's always you in various situations where it's like, let's just have fun, y'all.
Yeah. What people don't recognize, and I think this is my silent generation raising, because it's like, I've been working since I was 14 years old. So I understand like hard work is just, you know, the blessing of being able to work in a space that I like. You know, I know it's going to have its ups and downs and it's challenging, but like that focus and dedication on doing that hard work. Yeah. You know, like I am in the community. I am, you know, I might not post all about it all the time, but I'm in these schools. I talk to these kids. She really is. I talk to, you know, people that work in like public spaces, like, you know, especially in Chicago. You know, I want to be the person that I needed as a kid. Yeah. I want to be a part of the community that I have come from. And so then what I do is I learn from all my travels. Yes. And then I bring it back to the people who need it, because like, you know, we might look online and we might see all the celebrity gamers, but like it's so much different when people can have access to that.
And that's why there isn't so many of us, but we're going in because of the access. Like that's what you're providing. And it reminds me of like you kind of talking about how parents will come to you and just thank you. Where it's like, yo, I didn't think my child would have a future in video games, but now they're thinking, yo, I can be in video games. I can own this. I can own my own company. Like, tell me more about how it feels to actually be able to be face to face with these kids.
It feels surreal because, like, you know, I didn't necessarily have a me when I was little. I definitely had help and encouragement. But again, like I said, I started Sugar Gamers by accident. So when I made that organization and I saw that people like were connecting and had these really interesting experiences with one another, I'm like, okay, I've landed on something that's a little bit different. And this is like an insight that a lot of companies that don't have, a lot of people don't have, because we're too busy looking at data, not like feeling and you know, sort of interacting in a way that makes sense. So again, it's such a, we forget that it's such a luxury to work in this space and to like be able to provide that pathway through this narrative to other people. Like, all right, I did it. I didn't come from like, you know, riches. I didn't come from like, no one handed it to me. I like discovered it.
You had to pave your own path.
And part of that is because I played games. Like I learned how to read through games. Like I learned how to do so many things. I learned how to survive the idea of rejection through games, because like we all live in a world now, instant gratification. So we want to be good at things immediately. And if we're not, it's we don't want to even do it. Yeah. But like old school gaming, you was playing something, you was playing the same levels for hours.
Get by. Look, I cannot tell you. I think it was Avatar. It wasn't Avatar: The Last Airbender, or it was Scooby Doo. It was Scooby Doo. Okay, date me. It's fine. But the Scooby Doo Monsters Unleashed. There was this PlayStation 2 though.
She said Scooby Doo.
Let me tell you, but that game was intense. I played the goofiest games that had the most strategy, but the amount of times I tried to get through this level, eventually I went over to my friend's house. I remember we had some Lays and the ranch with the Lays, and we figured it out. It was a good time, but it felt good when we figured it out. We were like, oh, maybe if we defeat this person, like then we can... I still remember it. That's crazy.
I would gamble that the majority of us that work in games and that like games have a formative experience with other people when we play.
It's like, other people.
We have had fun with a sibling, a parent, friends, and it was like a fun memory that we remember with another human being. Yeah. Like we weren't so isolated. This wasn't so detached from
It was community.
Right?
It was community. Yeah.
I can't say enough about it. But like, my grandmother, she definitely comes from a different generation. And I think that I just have a lot of sort of foundational influence from that. She actually worked in tech herself.
Tell me more, because like working in tech back then is different from working in tech now.
It wasn't nearly glamorous. Like statistically, women worked in, tech and administration positions a lot more. Like again, being a telephone operator, and those sorts of things, right? And it wasn't like, oh my God, the highest thing. Yeah. But if she worked at Illinois Bell, which became Ameritech, which became AT&T. So I got to show you some of the pictures with her old computer.
We can't wait to see
her little madman outfit. She had like a little, I looked at these pictures, her skirt was a little short. I'm just like, Grandma. She had this like beehive little hair and stuff. But she used to tell me about working the switchboard.
Ooh.
Right? And one of the reasons that I speak the way that I do now is because she had to have a ethnically neutral voice. So, and I think
she pulled that up. That code
by
switching.
Talking like this.
Yeah.
Hello, you've reached Illinois Bell. Where can I direct your call?
That's scary.
So, like, whenever I didn't enunciate things right, she would correct me. And this did not lend me any friends growing up because I spoke like this all the time.
I feel that. Hi, how are you? Yes. Okay, that's cool. Wow.
Oh my God. I used to get talked about so bad, but I digress.
Haters gonna hate. Okay.
But yeah, again, so much I learned from her. And I think that a lot of times too, I like this whole new thing. I don't know how new it is, but this whole thing about like giving people their flowers. And when I first heard that, I was just like, that's an interesting saying.
Yeah.
But we can learn so much if we just pay homage and respect to people that have come generations before us because we be thinking we coming up with some new shit.
And it's like...
And it's not new. It's not... It might be repackaged. It might be shinier in some ways. But like one of the things that my grandmother used to say that used to get on my nerves, she'd be like, ain't nothing new under the sun. And I'm just like, yes, there is. You're old. And now that I am older, I'm just like, she was right.
Yeah.
Like, I every several years, I see the repeats of things that have already been done. And not to toot my own horn, but like so many of the things that I've done were before influencer marketing took off. So like
y'all need to see. Okay, this is where I chime in. Y'all need to see the vault of content. I'm saying she was interviewing people at C2, E2, E3, at all these events. She was also backstage at a concert, like interviewing people, and like through Sugar Gamers, like you were like that OG interviewer. You were the one holding those events. You had a collaboration with Victoria's Secret.
Oh yeah, that was one of my first events.
Imagine. So what was that like?
It was surreal. I didn't, we think that these things are so hard to do, but really it's all about relationship management, right? And like we think we're just gonna go online, follow somebody, and they're gonna be our friend. No, like
you have to actually engage.
I would go up to other people's events. I would support other people all the time. And I would, ask them if they were into games. I would engage them. I would have conversations with them, get to know them, maintain relationships with them. Like in our digital world, like it's so instantaneous. We don't think about what it means to just call somebody and be like, hey, you good? How you doing?
And it changes the game.
What's going on? And so that relationship management, I had met a wonderful woman that worked at Victoria's Secret. I don't even know if she was supposed to like allow me to have an event there, to be honest.
Ooh, but it happened. Okay.
It happened, right? And a lot of times that's how it went. Like when I worked in real estate, I had master keys to these buildings. So I used to have events in private theaters. I used to have, like, it seemed really upscale at the time because of, it was just the end of the job that I was working at.
Yeah.
And I had access to all these really interesting things. And so just by that upscale access, I was able to, meet professional women. I met an inventor. I met just these really interesting women from all walks of life, and they all showed up.
Wow.
And it wasn't like, we were there to be like sexy bombshells. We was eating and just talking about technology and the future, being in community with one another in a very feminine space, right? Like we weren't necessarily trying to be like, all right, who's the sexiest or anything like that. It was
just showed up.
It was just a very feminine, like we're women, we're in tech, we're in games. And like, it was a very beautiful moment. And I'm like, wow, I really pulled this off. This is insane. And then the next year after that was my first E3. And I was just like,
what was that? Well, tell people also what E3 is, because not everybody knows what E3 is.
Oh my God. So E3, I mean, I'm so sad that it's not around anymore, but it was video game mecca for so many of us. If you could go to E3, now that was like such a feat. Like you went to E3 in real life. Like, wow, you got to play the latest, greatest, and it would attract all the actual people that worked on the game. So like, you could meet the Hideo Kojimas or the people that worked in the space. And it was like, wow, isn't this amazing? And then just the setup salon. Like, just to see the huge Nintendos and the huge Xbox displays.
You got to see it all.
Oh, man. And when I first went, I remember, like, I only had Sugar Gamers for 1 year. And everyone was like, you're Keisha from Sugar Gamers. And I was
that's how you know.
What? No, I was, like, the only black woman there.
What? But still.
Becca. Oh, and also having the team that I had, and having it structured the way that I did, I had to learn intersectionality and from scratch. Yeah. There was no like language around it. So my first teammate, which was Rebecca Rothschild, she's a white woman. Yeah. And like we would go in there and we would like see how people would treat us differently and all this other stuff. She would notice things that I wouldn't notice. I would notice things that she wouldn't notice. And the second day or the third day at E3, I was just like, there aren't many black people here. Yeah. And I was like, that's how people know me, because I stand out as like not, there's not many of us. Yeah. The only other, I'm not gonna say the only other, but that's where I met hip hop. My first.
Hip Hop Gamer.
Yeah.
Shout out to Hip Hop Gamer.
Shout out to hip hop.
Oh, he talked about it, because didn't you like cut your finger on his?
It was the strangest
he wears
meeting.
this big belt, like, and it's worth it because of all this awards and stuff. But you cut your finger on it.
It was, it was not even something that I could replicate. But like we met, and it was like, oh man, like two people. Like, how did we find each other?
Yeah.
He was walking with a whole crew. He had a plush, a Sonic mascot guy behind them,
Are
and they
you
were
serious?
just like walking, and they were just like
OG.
squatted up, and I was just like, wow. And
That's
like
hip-hop
I was like,
gamer.
can I touch your belt? He was like, yeah, because it spins.
Yeah,
And
yes.
I spent it, and it just sliced my finger open, and it just bled on the E3 carpet. And I was just like, I just looked at him, and he looked at me, and it was just like, okay, I guess this has happened, and we are going to be friends forever now. And it's in blood.
That's how he said that it was in blood. I saw one of your interviews. I was like, that's hilarious. And it's so funny when you say back then, because today I have that feeling with GDC, but it's different. There's a decent amount of Black people at GDC. Yeah. Like when it was like last year, because that was my first one. I think it was 2023 GDC. I remember we were there. Like I was like, oh, we all took that group selfie at like that women gaming event. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow. So it was just interesting to see the evolution.
Oh my goodness. Like the amount of representation that I see now is just so beautiful, so magical. Mm-hmm. And I just wish now that representation meant more action in ways that like created sustainable change.
Yeah.
So like as representation goes, like now we're going to be hardcore consumers more than ever because we see ourselves in the games that we buy.
Yeah.
But I want to see us in, positions where we are making decisions on the games that we create, right? We make decisions on, people that we hire and different practices that we can have within a studio experience.
Exactly.
There's not many of us represented in those spaces, but we're definitely represented as consumers, which, is the least that can happen considering that we contribute money to this industry.
Exactly.
But yeah, and I'm really excited to see so many people who want to be, working in this industry, a part of this industry.
Yeah.
And, I'm hoping that it doesn't burn, too many people out because it's brutal.
I'm just saying, because this is why I love this woman so much, because it's not an easy industry. It's an industry that should welcome everyone. But I would just say that's why it's important to have that community support, because not everybody's so nice in here. Not so nice here, but it's okay.
I mean, I feel like the gaming industry definitely has a dark side that we need to talk about more often.
Yeah.
Which is that it's very exploitative. It is. Like, it exploits our human desire to play.
And make fun things. Yeah. And it's like, no, we're going to take advantage of that.
Right. Like, we get attached to games as kids, and we have that wholesome, innocent, like, sort of narrative about it. And so then when we get into the industry, we're like, it's going to be great. It's going to be everybody's going to be nice, and we're going to play fun games, and we're going to create. And it's not quite like that. It's like that sometimes. But it's not like that. These companies will exploit that like nostalgia that we carry with us. Like, oh, we're going to, have that experience that we had when we were bonding with the people that we played with as kids. And this time we're going to do it in a professional environment. And I think that right now, what Sugar Gamers has transitioned into is with our community and having such a close-knit community.
Very close-knit.
The same people for years. Like, what we can provide is support for the people who are newly entering into this space, because like we've been here, we've done that, and now we're, trying to create something new.
That just reminds me of like when it was like International Gaming Day last year. And like the event couldn't have been more perfect timing in my life, because I was just a time where I've been absorbing some external narratives that like, oh, I don't belong here and that stuff. And going there, meeting everyone, I was like, what you talking about? I should be in games. I'm going to keep being in games. So yeah, I just appreciate the foundation. So if we kind of transition into life, right? In a way, we're playing the game of life. Like, I know it hasn't always been a journey, like a smooth journey. Like, how have you really focused on like having that center of gratitude and having like that playful spirit even during the tough times?
I think that these last 4 years have been very grounding for me, because it's been hard. Like, it's not been easy. I think one of my gifts in life is to make very hard things look effortless, and like that's a blessing and a curse. You know what I'm saying? These things have been hard. I've wanted to quit. I have cried. It has been painful at times, but I think that one of the things that have happened, so I will give you a couple of failures, right? So Sugar Gamers, our cornerstone, and I will admit this on camera today. One of our cornerstones is that we have real life interactions. Yeah. People, are much different in person than they are online. Yes. No matter how authentic we want to believe that we are, whatever a person's like darkness that they got going on, it's completely de-escalated when they meet in person. Yeah. Right? Ain't nobody is trying to, have beef with you. Exactly. When they're really talking to you. Because they just want, it's just human. We're right here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like, come on. Like, it's really a lot better to create relationships at the end of the day. And so with the pandemic happening, we all had to like sort of pivot to these digital spaces. Yeah. And I don't think I did a great job in doing that, even though we had a lot of wins during that time. A lot of my team members felt the isolation. They like, if we could only meet in the office again, or if we could only meet together again, because a lot of people, they have, different neural spicinesses. Yes. Neural spices.
I like that. Neural spicy. That's a great way to explain the rage.
Yeah, and, people need that sort of accountability partner. They need, another person to be like, hey, you doing that? I'm doing this. All right, let's go. And like working in isolation is not really easy for most people. We pretend like it is because we all need to make money, but it's not. It definitely wasn't for me. As much as I am introverted, people are just like, oh, didn't you like the pandemic? Some elements, but there was this push to really have to do everything online. Yeah. Which kind of diminished,
takes you away from the in person.
Yeah, what made Sugar Gamer special. So after the pandemic, not after the pandemic, because I guess we're still in it to an extent.
To an extent.
But during that time, the cryptocurrency was a big conversation. NFT was a big conversation. Yes. Virtual reality, mixed reality was a big conversation, and it was going fast. Yeah. So it's like, oh my God, am I missing the train? Like, there's this constant feeling that you need to be ahead of the game. You need to like progress. Yeah. I gotta live in the future, and you never take inventory of like your why sometimes. And you can it's really easy, or it was for me. I didn't realize that I wasn't like really stopping to catch my breath. Like I was scared to, because like, oh my God, if I'm not out here doing stuff, then I'm gonna get left behind, and then I'm not gonna have any opportunities anymore.
When you have to think about, look at everything you've already accomplished, though.
But it doesn't matter if you like, the only thing that matters, or I at least felt at one point in time, is the last thing that you did. And if the last thing you did is years ago, then like, are you relevant? Especially in a world where people can like post something and like, oh, I was talking, in Europe somewhere, and aren't I, doing something, and that's great. And that gives, all of us, if we're building our identities in a digital space, it gives all of us this feeling like we're not doing enough, or the things that we've done no longer have impact, because it's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and it never stops being the next thing. So
it's like a constant hamster wheel. That's like the downside of social media. It's like you can if you get too stuck into comparison, it's like, man, I'm not where I need to be because I just saw this person post this, and I just saw this person post this, and what the heck, I didn't even know that was possible, and they posting that too. When it's like, how do you make sure you're not staying in that mindset, though? How do you snap yourself out of it?
Well, the life did, I don't know if I would have gotten snapped out of it, but like, I just had a lot of things that grounded me in my my human experience,
Yeah.
right? Like we have this digital experience, which is very important to our working, lives right now. But our human experience is like, my cat died, and I don't know if you've ever had a pet.
They're like family.
Yeah, like that was my first pet as an adult, where it was like family, and I'm just like, whoa. It was a big deal. And then shortly after, my grandmother died, most important person in my life. And that was a pivotal moment. And I'm just like, whoa, and just not having that thing that you have like every week. Hey, grandma, it's hard. It's that grief that you have to endure, that loss that we all at some point in time have to
experience.
Yes. And that there's no digital thing that's gonna, sure, that might help a little bit, but you really have to sit with your human emotions.
Yeah, sit with that grief. Yeah.
And then after that, I got breast cancer. And so then just being, again, grounded in my own human experience, grounded in my body. It's I have to think about my mortality. I can't think about go, 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 go.
Yeah.
I have to think about what does it mean to be alive?
Exactly.
What's important to me? So I had to really recalibrate to why I even want to do Sugar Gamers. Why do I even want to be in video games, right? And then my father died.
Oh my god!
I know it's like tiny violin,
but it's life. Like you can't control when this happens.
You can't, and my experience, though it sounds terrible, it's not necessarily a very unique experience. And the thing that kept me here is community.
Yeah.
It's community. Because those people that I built relationships with over 15 years in my industry, they were still there. In a human way. Yeah. In a very human way. And I think that we've done that for one another within Sugar Gamers. It's really hard to scale because I can't put a number on it, but I know it's invaluable.
It is. I saw it at the Legacy event. Well, people from across the country were there for you. We're there for the Sugar Gamers. I was like, that's a testament in itself.
I mean, at the end of the day, we want to help people get to where they're going. We're not trying to extract value from people. We're trying to enhance people's goals because I've been there, and I can't tell you how good it feels when someone believes in you enough to be like, go ahead, you can do it, you could do it. And we'll just corral behind people and none of us are perfect.
None of us.
But the best thing that we can do is just try and finish something, because people can talk a lot of games. They can talk a lot about the things that they could do and not have anything to show for it.
No substance. This has been this new. Let me not say this new generation. So I'm bashing the generation. No generation. I don't own. No,
I got grandma swag. So
let me tell you. I will say generation. This new. My generation. I love us. Okay. I feel like that's where, again, that's the downside of social media is people aren't focusing on the substance versus just the show and tell. And it's how do we make sure we stay grounded in that?
I mean, I think that we have to have some discernment on the spaces that we're in that are created for us to remain consumers.
Yeah.
And the spaces that we're in that are created for us to be better human beings or connected with one another. Because those spaces aren't going to be trying to sell you something every single moment. They're going to be like, hey, how do we check in on each other?
Yeah.
And, it's, again, grounded. One of our team members died suddenly over GDC recently. And again, it's we have this idea of permanence because we have this instant gratification from these digital spaces.
Yeah.
But then when we're unplugged,
it's whoa, we're human.
Yeah.
We have to learn. We have to be people.
And that's one of the elements of Sugar Gamers that I just am going to work very hard to maintain. I don't necessarily know if it's gonna make me, a gajillionaire. I don't necessarily need to be if I invest in people, You know, if you invest in people, then at the end of the day, you know,
That's
they're
your
going to hold
legacy.
you down.
Exactly.
Right? So like at my last surgery, my team showed up for me. And they're just like, yeah, we doing this, you know, at the ups and downs, you know, like we all think about, I think gaming, what I want to say here is gaming is special because we bring something personal to the experience.
Yes.
And a lot of us, we want to pretend like, oh, I'm going to go to work. I'm going to work. I'm going to work. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. That's a very difficult thing to do in the gaming industry if you love games. If you come into games from that human nostalgic, like, oh man, this was such a good time for me. This is how I made my friends. And then you're going to go to work and spend a third of your adult time in these spaces.
And just have to act like this.
Yeah, and not have any human connections.
That's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. So, you know, as much as I want to say like, oh, you know, my team is just my team. No, my team is my friends and my family. And I think one of the other things that we need to acknowledge in the gaming industry too is how much it really relies on nepotism.
Let's go. It's like who you know. People be hiring their relatives.
Yes.
And it's like, but there's so many people who aren't able to get in because those other people took the opportunity. And it's like, yo, why can't we just make sure the space is for everyone?
That's a difficult thing. Like that, like lifting as you climb is such a complex thing to really consider. You know, like I didn't really know what that meant. I thought I had to like be successful already and then help people.
And it's like, you can lift as you,
Yes.
I learned that from you. And that's why I try to be like, yo, like, okay, this is where you can do this. This is where you can do this. Like,
yeah,
you know,
we all have different skills that we want to showcase. And if there's like a project that we can all do together, we can all, you know, collaborate, you know, that spirit of collaboration is part of like why we get into games in the first place. It's like, oh man, we're gonna all team up and then we're gonna all, you know, beat the boss together.
Exactly. Do you want to, you know what, he can ask this question.
All right, so what's your question?
Yeah. So one of the questions I wanted to ask was, do you feel like the pandemic helped to bring your community closer or a little bit further apart? If so, how? And also, do you feel like Sugar Gamer as a community is going to grow beyond just the geographic of Chicago and maybe have like different chapters and things like that throughout the country or throughout the world? And what do you feel about AR and VR gaming?
Okay.
Dive into it. That's a good question. Shout out to Devontae! Woo!
All right. So, do I feel like Sugar Gamers became closer or, you know, further apart? I think a little bit of both, actually. We became closer in a very human way, and then we became further apart in some professional ways because, you know, times right now are a little bit different. So we don't have as much flexibility to do experimental projects like we would like. But, you know, our connection to one another is so much stronger because we are real friends. We have been through so much together these last 15 years. We've had so many ups and downs, just life experiences. A lot of the women that first joined Sugar Gamers are moms now. Aww. So, you know, I have like little baby Sugar Gamers now. But like having a family will just change your life, right? In some ways. Mm-hmm. And as far as like Sugar Gamers having different chapters, we're actually already all over the country. So, you know, like we have people in Colorado, Atlanta, LA, New York, so Texas. So it's we're all over, and that's been really gratifying too. So we do want to expand that. But again, it really is hard to expand what we do because it's hard work. We don't learn about human relationship management anymore. Like you have to stop, you have to be present, and you have to like, when you think about somebody, actually connect with them.
Yeah, not just like what you need from them. Connect with them.
Yes, it's like with care. It's like, do you care about somebody? And like calling them like, hey, I care about you. How are you doing? Do you need anything?
Yeah.
Like, how is life going for you? Like, a lot of times we just have learned this very generic way of doing things, of connecting with people, and we're kind of satisfied with our meme sharing. But ain't nothing like, sometimes I'll just randomly give somebody an old fashioned phone call, and I'd be like, "Hey, how you doing?"
We love the phone calls, Keisha.
Old fashioned
have
phone
some great
call,
chats,
right? Just to see how a person's doing, and that's time consuming. That takes a bit of energy and effort, and we're not necessarily learning how to do that as much anymore. Like when I was back in my day,
not the back of my day.
That's how you know, like working in real estate, especially, everything is about relationship management.
Yes.
Like people are going to make one of the largest financial decisions that they're going to make in their lifetime. Buying a property is huge.
Yeah.
And so they have to have trust. They have to like you. They have to know you. They have to feel comfortable around you. And, you know, right now we have this like one component sort of that we put out there, and people just, I have 1 million followers, and that equals trust, that equals expertise,
and it's there's so much more that it's not just you gotta deep dive into like this human experience, which is, you know, a little difficult, a little messy, organic, exactly,
but that's where all the authenticity comes in.
Exactly.
Again, back to nepotism. People work with who they know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
And we want to say like, oh no, it's because I'm good. No, it's not. You could be terrible at something, but if people are familiar,
they just have you in. They just have you in, and you're taking up space, and it's like, provide room for everyone.
I mean, and that's what the community is for. And that's why, you know, the community, like, I love how Rebecca Rothschild always describes it. Sugar Gamers is a place where you can extract the value that you need for yourself.
Yes.
Like, I don't know what everybody needs, but if people know what they need, I can help get them there.
Like you said, you enhance, you empower people.
Yes, but they're also contributing to the community space.
Yeah, it's an ecosystem.
Right. So they're meeting new people.
Yeah.
They're collaborating on projects.
Yeah.
So it's not like just, I'm a take. There's give and take in any relationship, right? It's not, it shouldn't be one-sided, and that's a community for you, right? Right now we're in communities that are, if we all bought this one thing, we're all a part of a community. That's not a community, that's a consumer space.
Yeah.
And that's fine, right? But the human components of community take different parts of who we are, and it's very human. It supersedes like work. We're talking about friendship, we're talking about collaboration, we're talking about comfort, we're talking about familiarity, and that takes time. That's, you know, you can't speed run that. I thought you were able to, but, you know, even at
it's not sustainable.
Yeah, like we have 10,000 followers on Instagram right now, which is not a lot. But just to keep up with that amount of people in like a very human touch way,
it's hard.
Yeah. So like it's small, it's close knit, but it's powerful. Like whenever we have projects, like when we worked for the NBA or Adidas or Google or whatever, we have all these people that we know are skilled that we can call in that can do an amazing job, especially in emerging technologies.
Exactly.
Like I think you had mentioned, AR, VR, AI
too. Yeah.
Like we have people in those spaces so we can have conversations about it. Like, you know how like, it feels so gate kept sometimes.
It does, and it's like you have to have those conversations to be like, hey, what do you know? Okay, this is what I know. How are we getting
exactly?
How
that
do information?
We, make this fun? How do we make this a space that we can all be a part of? Some of that is hard work that people don't want to do, and that's another conversation. But some people look at social media and like, all right, all I have to do is be cute and show up. Nope.
You got to build that foundation, because we had this conversation. You have to build that foundation, and this is what this new generation can do better of. I know, I'm like, we're in a mirror too. And I think like a good transition, like when you were talking about human connections, I think that builds off of Devontae's question with VR, AR, and AI. What are your thoughts with AI and gaming? Like,
I mean, I think that it's super terrifying.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, it's undeniable that the layoffs that we're currently seeing are in some ways caused by the efficiencies that AI offers. Why would you want to pay a whole human being when
do
you
something
have,
AI
you know,
can do?
Exactly. So,
Scary.
and it bypasses all the problems that we were currently trying to solve as it pertains to equity. Because, like, why solve those problems? Like, number one, you can, like, just have representation everywhere so we see visually ourselves and everything, and then you can customize that representation per demographic because all the data is out there.
That's crazy.
Why even solve that problem?
That's crazy.
So like there's a lot of power in AI. I think it's very scary, and I think that we all need to become educated in it and not like be like, oh, AI is wrong, AI is bad.
At least know what it is.
Yeah.
Know what it is, because I think that's how we often get gatekept from these things. We're always like the last to like join the train when it's almost impacting us the most.
Yes. And unfortunately, and as sad as this is, and as doomery as this sounds, I think a lot of us will get left behind. And I find that horrifying. And I think that the thing that we all need to focus on is really understanding where our human relationships are, because at the end of the day, when you don't got no job, when you are isolated, when you know, get laid off, who are you gonna call that's gonna care? That, and on top of that, just having access to your imagination and your own creativity, because like so many of us have been taught to like wait for somebody to tell us what to do, or wait for somebody to, you know, validate our work. Yeah. And like now,
you don't need that.
No, not necessarily.
You got this.
You know, you need to just, you know, like the people that I know that do the best in this space, they're going to work on the things that they love anyway. Yes. They're going to be, you know, imaginative and creative anyway, because they have the passion for it and they can dedicate themselves to it to be consistent.
Exactly.
And that's, you know, I think the people that are going to kind of make it through this next challenge that we're going to have, because, you know, coming full circle, this feels a lot like 2008, 2009 when I first started Sugar Gamers.
Yeah. With Everyday ZA.
And and now, you know, we're here and we have other challenges that are impacting how we navigate the industry. And AI is definitely one of them. Emerging technologies is definitely here. There's a lot of distractions and a lot of challenges. But, you know, it's gaming. So, you know, I think that we should put our competitive game face on, see who's going to be on the team. Yes. And like come up with some really fun strategies as to how to move forward during a challenging time.
You got this, y'all. Woo! Keisha, thank you so much. Like, this has been such a beautiful conversation. And again, full circle, proud of you, Sugar Gamer, period. So my question to you as we wrap is, what advice do you have for gamers or anyone that wants to get into the gaming industry?
All right. Two strong things. Get specific on what you want to do. A lot of people, they'll play a game, it's fun, and they're like, I want to work in gaming, and don't know how the gaming industry works. The gaming industry is just like Hollywood, and a movie is not just an actor. You know, a movie is not just a director. Exactly. A movie is not just this one thing. And so many people have such a narrow view of what the industry is.
And there's so many rules.
So that's number one. Get as specific as you can about what you personally want to dedicate your time to. Because it's going to be a commitment. Like, it's going to be a commitment, and it's going to need some sacrifice, right? You're going to have to like put some time in. The second thing is, I think of it as like putting yourself through school. So whatever it is that you decide that you want to do it. Like, if you're waiting for somebody to tell you to do it, someone to validate you to do it, someone to pay you to do it, then you're wasting time. Like, if you're a game developer because you develop games. That's how you become a game developer. That's it. That's all. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be a voice actor or something like that on a game, find somebody who's making an indie game and ask them, can you participate? That's what being a part of the community is. It's like, you know, like if I ever need somebody to do voice acting on gaming or motion capture on gaming, I know people and I'm like, hey, could you help me out?
Exactly.
You know, it's what the community experience is for. You just got to do the thing that you say you want to do. And that's such a weird challenge for many people because we go through a system in life. You go to school, your teacher's telling you what to do. You got parents, your parents telling you what to do. You got a job, your job tells you what to do. That is not necessarily how gaming works.
You have to just do it.
You have to just do it. And a lot of people don't really like that answer because we kind of come out the gate expecting to have this fiscal value. And the only way you can really express your fiscal value is by demonstrating a portfolio of work. And whether you get that from school or whether you like figure out how to do that from your own experience, you gotta have that. You gotta have a narrative of like what you're able to do.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people, they just come into this space. They don't really know what they want to do. They have a narrow idea of what the industry is. And then they don't want to like do the work without like being in a job structure.
Exactly.
And that's just, you know,
you have to just be able to do it. Like you make your own space when you don't got it. And that's literally what gaming is.
Yeah. It's one of the most competitive spaces there are. So to expect to get into this where you have hundreds of other people that are vying for your same position, especially now with these layoffs.
Yeah.
Like I want to say something soft and nice. Like if you believe in yourself, nah. You gotta understand that there is a whole bunch of other people that want the same job that you think that you want, and you gotta be in it to win it. You gotta play the game. You have to know who you're competing against. You have to do your research. You have to give your flowers too. Understand who like actually paved the way so you can follow how these different positions in gaming are structured.
Yes.
You know, from past to how they're going to be in the future. Is this job even going to be relevant as we're entering into live ops, AI, you know, all emerging technologies? Is this going to be the thing that's going to stay the thing you thought it was going to be? And like really having a good understanding that's comprehensive, that's competitive, is really going to be where people are going to thrive in this space.
Yeah.
But if they think that they're going to be like, also, and I know this might be a hot take.
Go ahead. We here for the hot takes.
I absolutely believe in advocating for your identity. However, in this particular situation, you need to be able to advocate for your work. So like it's and it's difficult, you know, like because
it goes back to substance though. And
I'm glad that you asked me what people could do. Because this is why I created game gigs to like have that illustration, right?
Yes.
And because so people can understand the departments. There's marketing, there's legal, there's logistics, there's administration, there's design, there's technical. There's so many ways that you can be in this, and like the possibilities are really just out there, and there's still room for originality. There's still room for creativity. And that's really exciting. So then game gigs is one of the things that I try to do. Game gigs is the product that we've created to like kind of get people jump started into like expanding their mind about like the opportunities that they can find for themselves in the game industry. So we have the cards, we have curriculums, we have classes, we have all sorts of things to like
check it out, y'all.
You know, ready to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my bits of advice. Just, you know, advocating for your work and your identity. But like, again, your work.
Emphasis on your work.
Yeah. I mean, because I know there's so much that we have to do as part of race relations, gender relations, sexual orientation. Ultimately, though, if you're putting your work next to somebody else's work and you want to say that it's competitive, you can't be like, oh, my work isn't good enough because I'm this. You know,
your work is your work.
Yeah, we have to do it anyway. And it sucks. It's unfair. And I'll be the first person to tell you, having been in the industry for 15 years, like, yeah, it's going to remain unfair. It's unfortunate, but also, again, there's more than one way to do this. So
Yes.
we don't have to like follow the roads and the structures that we've always seen laid before us. But you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
I mean, I hope that doesn't, doesn't weigh on someone in the wrong way, especially in a day that, is so important for us to be seen as ourselves.
Yeah.
But I can't emphasize enough the competitiveness, because people will take your shit. You know
they
what I'm
will.
saying?
They look. I learned it's substance that matters. Get focused on building your portfolio, and you don't need to have a career in games to build that portfolio. Join game jams. There's so many communities. Get on Discord. There's always someone that needs help in the thing that you're passionate about. Use game gigs to like really understand what that is and build your portfolio on your own. Yeah.
Can't state that enough. Like, it's only through years and years of consistency. Like, I think sometimes people who are just now getting to know who I am, and sometimes it might seem like I just popped up, but
it's like you've been here.
Failure after failure after failure, and then success after success after success. It's been ups and downs. It's been a very kind of, normal life ride, right?
Yeah.
It hasn't been like, a lot of times we think that it's just the arrow just goes up and there's never
exactly sometimes. Sometimes it's like
it's and you got to be prepared for that. Like, what are you able to handle the dips? Because you will have some dips, and like, are you psychologically prepared? And if not, do you have your support system together? Do you have healthy coping mechanisms? Again, this industry is a little bit different from other industries in that, like, there is some very human, visceral components that are here. There's a lot of feelings going around, and you got to be prepared for like how you handle yours and how you handle yourself.
That part.
So, and then last thing, I said I had two, but I actually have three. You're your own hero. Ain't nobody out here gonna save you. So it's like community, like, you can have your support system, but you are the protagonist of your narrative. As much as we might end up in situations where we're victims of different circumstances, like, we also have to be the people that save ourselves, so we can save others,
so
we
glad
can
you said
support
that.
others. It's sad, like, I hate to hear people going through terrible, unfair, just circumstances in this space. And, after you go through that, after you get the support that you need, after you get the help that you need, brush your shit off, get up, and do what you aim to do. Like, this is a decision that individuals have to make for themselves.
Yes.
And, you don't stop the race because your legs hurt.
That part.
So if you want to go, you gotta go. And again, like, I feel like that's that silent generation advice, and I wish it was softer.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It does. Honestly, though, that's what we all need, and we've had this conversation. Like, literally, like, we talked about this. But I'm so glad you said you have to be your own hero. The moment I realized that, that's where I just was like, you couldn't tell me nothing. And even when you tried to, I still snapped myself out of it. So you gotta be your own hero. So with that said, how do you make your everyday a yay?
How do I make my everyday a yay? I mean, I'm pretty sure that this is the answer that you always get: gratitude.
Look,
Like, I come into this office and
it's beautiful.
I'm just like, like, I don't have to have this.
Yeah.
But I do.
Yeah.
And like, I get to look at all these memories and all these things that I've accumulated over time, and everything has sentimental value. I didn't really think I was a sentimental person, but everything here, reminds me of friends, of family, of the adventures that I've had along the way. And my life has been so robust, and as hard as these last years have been, I've gotten closer to my friends and family. I've had like these amazing, magical moments, and I'm just so grateful to have had this tenure in this space, supported by, so many beautiful, kind, loving people. And I just am surprised to be here and just have this sense of accomplishment and enjoyment. So like, again, everything is it feels beautiful in a bittersweet way. So like, it's yay, and it's also like, it's not just yay by itself.
It's so much
I have
more.
The full access to the human experience,
Yes.
all my human emotions, and that's beautiful too.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yay! Give it up for Keisha! So how can we support you and Sugar Gamers?
All right,
Okay.
I have an assignment. The assignment is go to sugargamerslabs.com. And then if you go to the Game Gigs podcast, what I want you to do, this is something I'm just starting.
Okay.
What I want you to do is, if you're a curious soul like I am, I want you to nominate somebody whose job you want to learn more about. Do you know somebody in the gaming industry? And I mean, this is outside of a content creator. This is outside of a streamer, because we know what they do. And that's fine. They're beautiful, right? But like, have you ever interviewed a person that does technical design? How about audio programming? How about combat design? Like, these are jobs that people put a lot of time and effort into learning, but we don't necessarily see them online because they're doing their job. So why don't you nominate a person who you see doing a really interesting job in the gaming industry, so we can interview them for the Game Geeks podcast? Like, that would be great. And then also, you can acknowledge people in a way that showcases that they're important to this industry too. Even though they might not be seen, even though they might not have 1 million followers, they make the games that we love and play.
Exactly.
So they should get some credit too. They should have some visibility as well. And what they do can inspire us to do the things that we need to do too. So yeah, so just go do that for me, please. I want to meet new people, and I want to know what kind of jobs you want to know about.
I'm so excited for the show. And yes, y'all submit. I already got some ideas because I have some roles I'm curious about. Yes. Yay! Okay, honestly, what an amazing episode. Like, there's so much. With that said, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Every Day's Yay. And remember, you have the power to make every day a yay!